More and more foreigners are coming to Nairobi and they're interested in real estate investing. So today we're going to be talking with one of the best realtors in Nairobi, and he's going to be giving us the inside scoop. Do you mind introducing yourself?
So, hi guys. My name is Gideon. Gideon Brugo. I'm a realtor here in Nairobi, Kenya. And welcome. You guys are considering coming to Kenya, Nairobi for real estate.
Right.
Please come.
Okay,
There's a lot.
amazing.
All right.
And how long have you been in the real estate industry?
I've actually been in and out. I was actually doing other stuff, but I would say probably 10 years or so.
Okay, wow, amazing.
So I've been doing it for 10 years. It has its ups, it has its lows.
Yes.
But to be really honest, I think real estate in Nairobi is coming of age. There's really a lot. There are a lot of buildings coming up. And there's a lot of guys coming in as well. And there's a lot of internationals coming in there as well. So it's really popping, I would say. Probably for them, from the locals, they look at it differently. But yes, it's really going on the up and up, I would say.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are some changes that you've noticed compared to 10 years ago? What did Nairobi look like 10 years ago?
So 10 years ago, Nairobi is really different. I mean, for the last, I would say probably 10 to 15 years, the transformation is absolutely massive.
Oh, wow.
I would say right now there's a lot of, I would say international, how would I put it? Maybe appeal. There are a lot of international coming in. So one of the biggest differences between now and 10 years, obviously, is the price. Is because when you have African American coming in, what you'd say is cheap is really expensive to us. So from a Kenyan perspective, the prices have really shot really up. Someone would actually say we are actually, especially in the expat areas, it's like more Kenyans are getting out of the expat places and just going on the outskirts. There's a lot of building. As you can see, this is one example. There are just a lot of apartments coming up, left, right, and center. So there is a lot of construction. I would say even at one point, someone would say Kenya, if you come to Nairobi, it's like a construction site because just building coming up every place, every corner. Whether it's good or bad, it's debatable because we don't want this to be like a concrete jungle.
Right.
But there is a push for a lot of real estate that is coming up currently. It is better. I think comparably, we'd probably compare it with Cape Town. Probably most people would say Cape Town is slightly ahead because of the infrastructure. But I would say Nairobi, in terms of developing, is actually much more rapid. It's really a good place. One, because it's still considerably affordable. With other markets, in some areas, actually can be a little bit even more expensive. But yes, in terms of investments, Airbnbs are popping up in Nairobi. There's been a push of diaspora coming in, so there's a lot of Kenya is a tourist place, so a lot of Airbnbs are coming up. Where else would I go? I think Nairobi is one of the places in terms of real estate because that's a testament. You're here. There's a lot of African Americans coming in currently, and they're all looking for Airbnbs. They're looking for apartments, so you can buy an apartment, a house for rental for whatever purposes. So I think it's a really good investment. Currently, the prices are fairly affordable for probably $80,000 to $150,000 thereabouts. Depending on the probably house or apartment, you can get something. So the expat bubble, I call them that because the prices are, let's just be honest, they actually really are high because there are more foreigners who are buying them. So Kilimani, Lavington, Kileleshwa, Westlands, Riversides. These are what I call the expat bubbles. Prices for these places, you can expect them probably not as high as the American ones, but not low. And so those are the expat bubbles. But on the outskirts, it's really coming up. More and more people actually trying to invest outside the city. It's more quieter. There's a more greenery. There's probably a mix of modern and traditional Africa. So if you go on the outskirts, and for some people, that is what probably they would actually enjoy. But for those who want to live in the urban areas, you want those are the three most, probably five more common areas. There are conveniences, the roads are well done. There's gonna be Uber transport. It's convenient.
Okay.
So, but the price is gonna also be up.
Oh.
So on the outskirts, most people have heard Kiambu. I say Kiambu, I feel like everyone knows Kiambu. So Kiambu is on the outskirts of Nairobi. Kiambu is really coming up. There you're gonna have not just apartments, but homes.
Okay.
I'm actually pushing for people to look for homes because there you get a standalone home for me is much better than an apartment. I'm gonna be honest about that.
Right.
That's opinion from myself. So, but there are a lot of houses, standalone houses you can get there at favorable prices. I don't think everyone wants to stay in an apartment. So you're gonna get Kiambu is one of them. If you're looking outside Nairobi, probably for me, one of the best places you're gonna be looking is Naivasha and Nairobi. You've been to Naivasha?
No, not yet.
Really? It's just like a 2 hours drive from Nairobi.
2 hours? That's I don't have a car.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing with foreigners. We don't have a car.
Yeah, all right. That would make sense. But Naivasha, Nanyuki, my dream place to retire is Nanyuki. It's not even Mombasa. Mombasa is also a good place, but there are also a lot of expats there, so prepare for the prices to be really high.
Okay.
But there are a couple of other places. I saw an expat in Kisumu. Like that's really far off.
Yeah.
So it tells you people are actually starting to move from the city to villages or up country for you guys.
Okay.
You call it up country, right?
We call it countryside in the United States.
All right, yes, up country.
Okay.
Yes.
Like the rural areas.
The rural areas.
Okay, that makes sense.
And your back will go further there.
Right, absolutely.
Yes.
And have you ever heard of precast homes? Because that was something I was really researching before I came here.
It's the rage right here. Yeah. So precast is okay. I'm a real estate. I'm not a construction manager, but precast is where I think you build with the blocks. It's easier to build, much
more
faster,
more economical.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had a couple of people say it's not as economical as people tend to say it is.
But it is faster.
Definitely faster. It might actually be slightly stronger. I don't know. I'm not. Yes, probably. But it's much faster. More and more buildings are actually using the precast. It's in vogue right now. That's a word, probably.
Okay.
Yes.
And so would you recommend that as an option for people who want to come here and build homes or even real estate buildings?
It just depends on your budget. Kenya and Africa in general is about budget. Whatever your budget, your budget will work with whatever you have. Yeah.
Right.
So you have yes, if you have a budget of 150,000, you build a mansion. I tell you, like especially in the upcountry places, outskirts of Nairobi, you're gonna build a really spectacular house because the cost of building is much gonna be lesser. Raw materials are there. If you want to use the precast, they are available. So in terms of technology, that's one of the things that you're gonna be really pleasantly surprised because there is a lot of that. The only caveat is in Nairobi, it's just about the money. The money that you have at your disposal will dictate what you get and where you stay. So it's just about the budget, really.
Okay, that makes sense. And so what are some tips that you have for a foreigner who's coming here and wants to just get started on their journey investing in real estate?
Well, one of the biggest, not just even investing, even in terms of staying, I usually tell someone 2 things that you gotta do first. You've got to, when you come, there are a lot of Airbnbs that you can get because you need to be on the ground. Don't buy something when you're there, doing your research. You really need to come and feel the place.
Boots on the ground.
You gotta get boots on the ground. While you're on the boots on the, you can now see, I'd actually even tell someone, stay for like 3 months, just check out different areas, different vibes as you call them, of the different areas. Then you can decide where to invest. There are so many options in terms of real estate. People are looking for houses. Kenya has a deficit of, let me try and remember the actual figure. People who are coming to Nairobi, there is an actual deficit of almost 1.something million houses. In just Nairobi. We don't have enough houses. That's the basic thing. So if you're coming to invest and you invest in affordable housing in Nairobi, there is no way you're going to be wrong. However, you need to be here I usually tell someone, just come.
Right.
Even if you're getting a very expensive Airbnb, for the first month, just get on yourself here. Just get to see where the place is. I feel like most people get scammed in houses because they're seeing pictures of what's supposed to be, and they're being told this is what it looks like, and when it's done, it's nowhere near what you're told it will look like, right? So get a local. I'm not just saying that because I'm a real estate, but it's just that's the honest truth. Get a local, get your boots on the ground, go see. Then you can make that decision where you want to invest in yourself. Because let me give you an example. If you come as a visitor for like 3 months, you've gone to a couple of Airbnbs, you're like, they're not my taste, or I don't think there's something that you're missing. You're a better place to make now a better decision because you can actually see what your clients will need when they're coming here.
Okay.
Am I making sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've been here for 3 months and you've changed how this is your that Airbnb, right?
Yes, I've been to a lot of different areas. Yes.
So, but you're getting better. So you know when you're being overcharged.
Right.
You know what's the good places. You know where you can settle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And so when you say affordable housing, do you think building bed sitting units is a good investment? I heard about bed sitters.
Bed
Yes.
sitters. You think bed sitters. Bed sitters.
Yes. Bed sitter units. Is that a good investment?
It is a good investment. It just depends on where. Okay. So this is an up market area. If you get a good bed sitter here, you're gonna get it at slightly cheaper as compared to a one bedroom. But also in terms of leasing it out, in terms of renting it out, it's gonna be much easier. It's gonna not compare with a one bedroom house. That makes sense. Is that what you're asking, right? Yes. So in that sense, bed sitters in really exclusive places makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
However, if you get them in the outskirts, it doesn't make sense because a one bedroom still it's gonna be cheaper in the outskirts.
Okay, that makes sense.
So a bed sitter, if you're gonna be taking a bed sitter in the expat bubbles, that's really good because you can price it fairly and you can get more customers more easily. Just because they want to be near conveniences, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
So if someone is coming here, do you recommend buying a house or building?
Do I recommend buying or building? It depends. Personally, for me, if I was to come in and I want to invest in something like an Airbnb, I would buy.
Okay.
There's no need to go and try, because most probably you're gonna get an apartment. It's already set up. For most here in Kenya, we actually do a deposit and then it's built up as you buy. Okay. You can still be able to buy when it's built up, but it's gonna be more expensive. Right. So if you're looking at it in terms of investment, like an Airbnb, leasing it out, that sort of thing, I would actually get it. I would buy. But when you're building on the outskirts, maybe you want to come and just relocate for like you want to retire in Kenya, go outskirts and build it because I'd be thinking on somewhere that is a bit more. Nairobi is a bit of hustle and bustle, right? You'd agree.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'm looking to build for family and just somewhere to retire, I would actually go and build outside. It's gonna be cheaper. You can customize it to your liking. But if you're looking at it in terms of a place to come and just chill out, maybe 2, 3, 4 months in a month, just buy an apartment in Nairobi, you can be able to put it on Airbnb easily. Yeah, that would be more of an investment.
Okay. Yes,
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
Yes.
And so you had mentioned that it's cheaper to buy an apartment that is currently under construction?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know about how other countries do it. So here in Kenya, what usually ends up happening, a developer will come up with a project. They're going to be saying these are 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house. So they'll start constructing it and then they'll ask you for a deposit. Let's say it's costing 100,000 just for the sake of making the mathematics easier. So they'll ask you for 10 or 20%. That's going to be like $20,000 or $10,000, just depending on where exactly. And then the rest you're supposed to pay monthly as it gets built up, right?
Okay.
So it usually takes probably 2 to 3 years. And then by the end of those 2 to 3 years, you're supposed to have finished paying.
Okay.
However, how you go about it, you can't finish paying later. It just depends on different developers. It just depends on, probably if you paid the 50%, it's much more easier to. You can still buy it outrightly off. If you buy it outrightly off, you're going to get the best price possible. But it will take 2 to 3 years for it to the project to get finished up, right? That makes sense?
Yes.
Or you can do a deposit and then it gets built up. Same with houses as well.
Okay.
Yes.
And is that considered a higher risk investment? How do people avoid scams or people abandoning the project?
Yes. Remember what I said, boots on the ground?
Yes.
There is, let me be honest, there is a lot of that. A lot of projects have actually stalled because the contractor has taken probably 30-40% from guys, probably because gotten a little bit greedier. For whatever purposes, the development doesn't finish up, right? For particular, I'm going to be honest, that's why people like Chinese buildings, because probably some of them have money upfront. Even when you're asking for your 20%, they do have their own money to build it up. So there is a lot of that. You need to do your research. There are a couple of lawyers you can work with to do just in terms of research. It would be the best if that developer has other developments that are actually done. But you need to have boots on the ground. You need to do your research. And that probably for me feels like you can't do that when you're there.
Right.
Even when you're just talking to the developer, sometimes you get a feel of whether these guys will be able to do it or maybe not. Yeah.
Right.
So my advice would be come here on the ground, do your research, get a lawyer, get a real estate agent, because we know the history of some of these developers, right? Yeah. And then you can make a decision. It's still gonna be a risk. Let's be honest, right? It's still gonna be a risk.
Yes, but you can a risk.
But you minimize it. If a developer has finished other 10 projects, probably they're gonna finish that. Right? Okay. Yeah. Yes, so, but if you get a very good deal, that would be the first question mark. Yeah. Okay. If people want really good deals, I bought a house for $40,000. I'm like, brother, that's gonna be issues.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, that makes sense. So it sounds like you kind of have to know a guy who knows a guy. But if this is somebody's first day in Kenya, how do they get in contact with people like you or lawyers or all these resources?
So from I think even as a real estate agent, you're trying to put ourselves out there. Right. There's a lot of misconceptions about locals in Kenya, unfortunately. Some of which is true, some of which is false. I'm trying to do my bit, get myself out there and tell people, just come, let's do a research together. The funniest thing I usually tell someone, when you do your proper research, it doesn't make a difference whether you're Kenyan or not. You can smell something is really off, even if you're a foreigner, if you do your research, right? So when you're here, just do your research. Ask the lawyer, do these guys have, if you get a really good lawyer, which we can recommend, there's a process. Actually, let me actually redo this. The best way to buy a house is just do the whole proper process of it, because the process of buying a house in Kenya is tedious and it is long, and for a good reason, because those checks and balances is what is going to make you not get conned. So get a lawyer. Don't be cheap. Right. Don't be cheap when you come to in terms of the process. Get a good lawyer. Get a good quantity surveyor. Get a good real estate agent. Do the whole process. It's gonna take a whole year. Let it take a whole year, right? Just do everything. Learn as much as you can about the process, so that you can start questioning. When a lawyer comes and you're like, no, but I saw it says this is how it should be done. These are agreements. I don't think in terms of the process would be any different with any other country. You just need to do your due diligence, get the right people, and don't go cheap. Okay. If you're going to have professionals from surveyors, lawyers, real estate agents, just pay for them so they can get your job done. I think that would be much easier. That is one thing I've learned in Kenya. Cheap is expensive. Cheap is expensive. Cheap is very expensive. Yeah. Okay, amazing. Yes. So also, what are some regions that you would recommend a beginner investing in real estate, or possibly even some real estate avenues? Yes. I would say before even going outside of Nairobi, just for me, if you're gonna be an investor, you can tip your toes with apartments. Just start with something basic, just even to get the basic understanding of how real estate works. You don't have to go for a whole apartment or a whole building. I would say start basic. Get a 1-bedroom apartment in somewhere that is in your range, that you're comfortable with. Just get to know the process, get to know how that feels, and then you can spend. There's a lot of real estate coming up. Even foreigners actually just starting to build. I saw somewhere, I think even African Americans, because people want to build something that is, they think people from their own can be comfortable in. If I ask you as an African American, what would be your perfect apartment. Probably you give me something different. You want a view.
Right.
I don't want somewhere that is crowded. I don't want to have one apartment and then there's an next apartment. There's no view. So there's a lot of opportunities in terms of people who are looking to do real estate different because the market is rare. The market actually there. I think this year, coming next year, you're having like 2,000 UN employees relocating to Kenya, right? Yeah. So you can look at it in terms of apartments, in terms of houses, in terms of there's a lot. You just need to come and just check out what to do.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing more and more about mortgages.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about how to get a mortgage or if they're available to foreigners?
Mortgages are available to foreigners as well here in Kenya. We just have to be able to pay it off. So for most Kenyans, locals, they do their mortgages with the local bank. I would assume that is almost the same as any other country. So your bank will pay a certain percent of that money and they'll buy it off, and as you pay the bank. That is common for most expats. For most expats and developers here in Kenya, even if you're an expat, the process is still the same. What is different is the documentation, because you're not a Kenyan, right? So you're an expat, so the documentation might be actually slightly different, but the process is still the same. Okay. If you pay 10% and you're able to pay those monthly bills, you're done. So most places in Kenya have lease. So that's gonna be 100 years.
The land lease.
The land lease, yes. Actually, and I have had a lot of experts say they have an issue with that. But they actually, even Kenyans who are buying apartments in Nairobi or around Nairobi usually get leases. So what that actually says is after 100 years you have to renew. It's a very standard process. That doesn't have to scare someone that my house after 100 years, my kid will not. No, not really. Because even most Nairobians actually, the houses that are bought around these places are all leases. Even outside, actually, for most. But the way once you get, I've forgotten the word, but it's okay. You'll add it. On the outskirts where there's ancestral land, that might be different. When you buy, that's yours for forever. So that might be different. But for most places near Nairobi, you're gonna get 100-year leases. Even as a Kenyan, it's gonna be the same process, and you don't have to worry after 100 years someone is gonna take in. In either case, you're gonna not be there after 100 years, right? Okay, right. So your kids will still have it. Yeah. Children or children's grandchildren. Yes. Okay. It's not a complicated process. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not like you'll get.
But is it guaranteed?
It is guaranteed.
Okay.
Most you've been to Karen, right? Karen, yes. There's
Karen.
a lot of white population. Most of those, actually not most, all of those houses are on leases. So they have their grandkids. It's just a renewal process. Okay. It's not complicated. People don't look out to steal houses from there. Okay. But if probably you're dead and you haven't left your house to your grandchild or child, that might happen. Okay. Because now there's a house, there's no documentation. Okay. Yeah. And is there credit checks in Kenya? Like if a foreigner wants to take out a mortgage, the same way there's credit checks in the United States, or credit score system? There is to a point, but honestly, I would say for most developers in Kenya, if you are able to take the 20 or 10% deposit, they really don't care. Okay, cash is king. No, I'm not saying you should not care on your credit, but if you walk to the typical real estate development, I want to buy a house, I have my 10% deposit, and I'm gonna be paying $2,000 every other month. You're gonna get a house. Okay, it's not that complicated. Yeah, so for most Kenyans who are buying houses, because the bank, if you're buying with a mortgage, the bank has to pay that money. They'll do the background check. So, right. You know what I mean? Yeah, but for other people, as long as you have the money, they don't care. Okay. As long as you're able to pay, because if you're not able to pay, they'll take it back and. Right. Okay. Yeah. What about interest rates? What is the approximate interest rate for mortgages? Do you know? The rates have been really going up. I think now it's almost 10%, I would say. Okay. Most banks are giving that at 10 to 12%. But I'll leave that and say it will depend with the developer where you're buying the houses. That has to be more of what you agree. I don't say there's a standardized mortgage rate unless you're a Kenyan, which is at 10, 12, 13, 14, 15% thereabout.
Okay.
But it's probably just as long as you're able to buy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would not be slightly different from buying an apartment, but not so much. Land now, that is a bit tricky. So that's where if you're gonna be scammed in Nairobi, in Kenya, it's probably buying land than buying an apartment. Okay. Because for the land is it's a process that it's a very long process because there has to be background checks of who the land belongs to. Right. Is there issues, legal issues with the owners of the land? So for that, it's not very different from probably buying apartments, because apartments are going to be dealing with professionals. While you're buying land, you're dealing with families, and that's where usually the most scamming takes place, because sometimes it's ancestral land. So one of the brothers decides to sell a plot of land and the other family is not aware, or they have disagreements. So that ends up being a legal issue. But you still can get land. If you buy from really renowned real estate companies, the process is quite seamless. Okay. But you gotta do your research. Right. You gotta do your research. If you're buying for a family, there might be legal issues. That does not mean there are always going to be issues buying land, but you just have to be prepared to do your you really have to do your background check. Okay. For an apartment like this, the background check is really not that much, because once the buildings are there, the documentation is very easy to follow up, right? But for land, that's a whole entire process, not very different, but you really have to do your due diligence. You're going to visit the chiefs in some places. You're going to have to visit the whole family, just make sure everyone is they're willing to sell the land. But it is possible. Okay. If you buy from a real estate company that just sells land, like Tattoo City and the such, it's very seamless. Documentation, because the documentation is there, there's no much there. Okay. But if you're buying land probably in the ancestral places, you really have to do boots on the ground and do your research. Okay. But you can buy, it's gonna be on lease. I would say the easiest way probably to do it, if you have a company, just form a limited company, because here in Kenya, a foreigner is not allowed to outrightly buy land. But if you form a company, you probably give a few shares to a local person. That would be the easiest way out. Okay. Yes.
And what are some regions you recommend buying land within the Nairobi or outskirts?
It just actually depends on your preference. Personally, if you ask me, the top two places I would buy land if I was a foreigner, it would be Nanyuki, because Nanyuki and Naivasha primarily because it's a tourist place. There's a lot of options. Right, you buy land, you can put up hotels, Airbnbs. There's a lot of that. Yeah, there's there's a local tourism circuit around that. Right. Okay. For me, Nanyuki is really nice. I like the place. If it's a ranch, that sort of place, you want to be a bit of the locals as well. Nanyuki is really good. There's available land there. It's a bit modern. It's what Kenyan would say. It's over the weekends. Most people either go to Nanyuki or it's a high. What do you call it? It's a, where do you
like
call it?
Like a weekend getaway.
It's a weekend. It's like
yes,
perfect. It's somewhere they can go for a staycation. But there are a couple of other places. Land in the Kikiambu County is also very good, on the outskirts of Nairobi, but not very far. So that would be probably my top three places: Nanyuki, Kiambu, and Naivasha. There's a company is actually selling land to African Americans. Travers. Have you heard of Travers?
No, I haven't heard of that.
They bought a land. Actually, they've been not given. They've been given land to subdivide to African Americans. Okay. It's on the side. It's on the Thika side. Oh wow. So it just really, for most people, it just depends on what you'd prefer: sunny, hot, cold places to farm. If you're someone who wants to come and probably farm, Mount Kenya region would be perfect for you. The weather is perfect. It's cold. There's a lot of things which can grow there. If you're probably someone who wants to go to the coast, you like the coastal side of town, Kilifi is coming up really well, Kwale, Lamu. So I think Kenya is really diverse. It just depends on what you want. If you want beaches, go to the coast. If you want inland, go to Mount Kenya areas. So it just depends on what you really want.
Wow,
Yes.
that's amazing. And
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about City Oasis?
So City Oasis, they actually finished. It's the 4 or 5 phase building. They finished with the first place. It's actually almost taken up. Actually, there's another building which is coming up next. These are all booked. But this would be really nice for, I think, actually particularly African Americans. You want somewhere that is in the expat bubble. Let's call it for what it is. Convenient. It's an apartment. It's built up already. You can put it for Airbnbs. You can do rentals. You can get a really good income for this place. Probably for a month, it would go for. Would you pay $880 for this per month here comfortably?
About how much was that?
$880.
800. Yes. Yeah, like this unit, definitely. It's bigger than the unit I'm paying 880 for now.
Yeah. So if you're looking for that sort of income, then this is the perfect place to come and buy.
Yeah.
It's a Chinese construction. What it means, they'll be able to do the job done. They'll do it very fast. They'll do it efficiently. There's nothing much that can go wrong. I'm not saying Kenyan contractors or developers are bad guys. I'm not saying that. It's just that Chinese have been doing this for a long time. Right? So it's a solid development, especially if you're looking to invest somewhere. Maybe you can be coming here for like 2 or 3 months, and then the rest of your year it's on Airbnb.
Okay.
Perfect place.
Okay, amazing.
Yes.
So what is the process if someone was interested in one of the units here or maybe the future construction?
So I would say, please contact me.
Yes.
Contact me. The process is pretty. I actually had someone say the process of buying an apartment in Kenya is pretty standard. Yeah. Just put on a deposit for the upcoming building. It takes 2 to 3 years. The best time to buy is now because it's coming up. When it's already done like this, it's gonna be very expensive. They're gonna have choices for 3 to 1 bedroom choices for the building that is coming up. For the details, just kindly contact us. It's much more easier to explain. There's a lot of other details and someone needs to be aware, things that you need to put up front. But the biggest issue is if you have the deposit of 10 to 20%, you're good to go, and you can be able to pay for the other 2 to 3, 4 years months. You're good to go.
Okay, amazing.
Yes.
So I would like to tour some of the apartment buildings. Are we able to see what you have to offer?
Yes, I'll show you around. You can check it out.